Welcome, Mr. Denome. Now it's getting to the end of August, and they say that September is a bad month and October will be finally a good month. So in this video, we will take a look at the fundamentals, the news, and the charts to basically determine where will the price go. And first, let's actually talk about September, because this is, as you can already see, usually the worst month of the year. Excluding January can be quite devastating as well. But September, as you can see from 2017, we saw minus 7%, minus 5%, minus 13%, minus 7, minus 7, minus 3. And then last year, we actually did break the cycle. We got a plus almost 4% gain on September. So my warning is that September might be quite bad. So you may actually just want to sit September out. And when we get to October, here you can see those huge, nice, juicy gains. And this is basically happening almost every time. So October, they call it the Uptober. September, I don't know what they call it, but September is usually bad. You may want to sit this out. But if you want to trade this, here are some ideas. So first off, we went below the trend line after my previous video, and I said I will flip immediately bearish after the trend line, and we went all the way to $58,000. But because this is getting to September, I actually think we are heading even lower. Because we already broke the trend line, why not just go further down? This would be the first leg down and then a second leg to the downside. Who knows, maybe even a third leg, but a second leg would make sense. I don't know how low we will go. I'm not there yet exactly, but as of now, this is basically the area that you should look out for. So this is the current support level, basically below $57,700. This is basically the bear zone here. Above that, I guess you could be bullish, but usually September is just not a good month. There's not a lot of catalyst, and this year specifically, this is an election year, and there's a lot of uncertainty with the market. And when we take a look at Donald Trump, but Warren Buffett, he actually sold another $1 billion worth of Bank of America stocks a few days ago. So he's waiting for a market crash, and who knows what will happen. I don't know either, but we can speculate obviously. So this is basically the bear zone. However, we do have a timeline now. Let's actually not that one. The timeline goes like this. Yeah, well, it's a long timeline, but as long as we hover above this, when we break above this trend line here, who knows where we will break it. If we break it down here, that will be the bottom, and when we go above that trend line, that's when we will be basically having those high gains once again. So that's my current take. Basically is bearish under this line here, bullish above that. Otherwise, you may want to sideline, and if we do get a juicy move to the downside, then you deploy your capital and you snatch that golden opportunity. And from my previous video, I was wrong. I thought that this line would hold and we will go to the upside already, but that didn't happen. So we are currently here, basically staring at the barrel of more downside. Now let's actually talk about some of the news that we saw recently that may or may not be significant. First off, Hong Kong, they have launched a sandbox to test tokenized asset transactions. And obviously when you first look at this, like I looked at it, I thought, wow, this looks bullish. But when you actually go down and you scroll and you read it, they said that they are using tokenized currency and central bank digital currencies. So these are your fascist or communistic central power, centralized control methods, and they are going to mask it under the hood of tokenizing assets. It's the central bank digital currency what is actually being implemented in Hong Kong. So this is no good. I don't like it. I thought it was bullish. It's not bearish either, but it's not good for freedom. So it is what it is. Next up, we did get an interesting tweet from Donald Trump. So he actually tweeted World Liberty Fi. So he is actually creating a new DeFi platform. And I thought this is absolutely cringy. Let me just get that out of the way. When you scroll down here, we can actually verify that this is the real deal, because Eric Trump was talking about it, tagging World Liberty Fi here. And Donald Trump Jr. also said that they're basically trying to get against banks and financial elites with this move. But to be honest, I don't think the Trumps have a lot to give to DeFi, not a lot of innovation to give us, definitely not anything open source or anything like that. It's probably going to be a copy-paste project where they will hold most of the tokens, they will have all the say, and they will dump on the users. That's my, let's say, expectation, and I'm happy to be proven wrong, but that's my expectation. I find this cringy, but who knows what will happen. As of now, they only have this low quality logo and a Telegram group, no website, no mission statement, no nothing. But we do have some leaks that they are going to do DeFi and high yield. Now the obvious question is, where will the high yield come from? So we don't know. Maybe we are the yield. I will probably make a video about WLFI once it launches, but as of now, you can only buy the scam coins of WLFI. I wouldn't touch them. I don't recommend anyone to touch them because they are obviously just scams. So those are no good. And next, we did have a situation with Binance locking user accounts. So Israel, they issued a statement or a legal action against Binance to take down Palestinian crypto accounts under the threat of terrorism or whatever, and Binance actually complied with the rule. So we have one person here, Anas Al-Sharif. Oh, sorry, I probably said it wrong anyway. He's a little bit angry here that his account is now locked and he cannot get access to his $2,300. So that's very, very annoying, but this is another reminder to actually take funds out of exchanges that you don't want to risk being seized, hacked, anything like that. So for this reason, I think it's very important that you keep most of your money in your private wallets or in your cold wallet. If you don't have a cold wallet, I do have an affiliate link for Ledger, which is the biggest cold wallet manufacturer. So if you want to get a cold hardware wallet, you can get that using my link in the description. But all in all, an unfortunate situation. And this has a spillover effect to the fundamentals when we get there, so I'll talk about this a little bit later. But when we take a look at ETFs, you can see 3 days of selling. So ETFs are just following the price action. Price goes down, ETF sell, price goes up, ETFs buy. So we're not seeing like heavy accumulation here. These guys are very fidgety at the moment. They are not accumulating, they are selling because price going down. So that's the situation with ETFs, $300 million being sold in 3 days. And Ethereum side, however, we are not seeing buying or selling. So Ethereum ETF guys, they are basically just hodling for now. But now let's actually head over to fundamentals. And first off, let me scroll all the way up here. First fundamental that I want to talk about is supply on exchanges. So at first glance, you can see a blip to the downside, and this is a bullish signal. However, this is not organic situation where people want to buy Bitcoin on an exchange, deposit into their private wallet and hold it long term. That's usually a bullish. But because this coincides exactly with the freezing of Palestinian accounts, I think this is mostly a fear factor that people saw what happened with the accounts in for Palestinians, so they are like, oh yeah, I actually probably should take my money out of the exchange. So it's not like a bullish signal, so this is basically a non-event here, not a neutral signal, so forget that. But this is the first bullish signal that we are seeing a little bit more money printing once again from the last few days. So hopefully we see this going to the upside once again, but this is a bullish signal here. Next up, I actually will skip this part of the supply distribution. I will use the other chart quite soon, but here is another bearish signal. So now we have basically one bullish signal, one neutral signal, and this is a bearish signal. So this is tracking the wallets of people who have held Bitcoin for more than 1 year and 3 years. And finally, we have a sign here that old money has sold. So you can see a blip here of 18,705 Bitcoin being sold by a wallet or wallets that have held Bitcoin for more than 3 years. And this signal usually happens at the peak here. Luckily, this is not a big signal, but usually this is followed up with a dump. And this guy or person or people, we don't know, they actually made a profit with this sale. I will get to that soon. But this is not necessarily a guarantee that price will go down, but it is a bearish signal that they wanted to basically lock in the profits and get out of the market because they are expecting further downside. So when we actually go and take a look at the network realized profit and loss, you can see this spike here to the upside, which means that those guys, they actually locked in a profit of $920 million. So that's a hefty profit. So congratulations for them for locking in that profit. But for us, this means that they don't want to keep holding that unrealized profit. They wanted to realize that profit. So they are basically expecting more downside. That's the signal basically there. Next, Bitcoin miners are still accumulating. A small blip at the end here, but the trend is still to the upside, so this is still good. So this is another bullish signal, but here this is the scary part, which I do want to talk about. So we're looking at the Bitcoin supply distribution, and I usually only look at the short term. What are whales doing in the short term? So for this video, I will look at the long term view because there's a very dangerous signal here hidden in these charts. So let me take out these different lines here so you can clearly see it. So this yellow line, it is whales that hold Bitcoin for between 100 and 1000 Bitcoin in these wallets. And this is not the amount of holders, this is the amount of Bitcoin in these wallets. And you can see the current amount is 20.31%. And you can see that they actually started to accumulate from this bottom here from July 7th all the way now, and they just kicked up the gear after this dump here. So these guys have been accumulating, and usually I would consider that to be bullish, that these whales are buying. But however, when we take a look at the track record of this yellow line, these are the worst investors on the planet based on on-chain data. So let me explain. From 2017, they kept selling the Bitcoin, and they kept selling and they kept selling and kept selling and kept selling. Finally, they actually stopped selling because they probably sold all they had already. The number was at 19.1%. Then this line went to the upside right at the peak of the market. So that means that these guys bought the absolute top of the market. They waited and sold all the way to the bottom, and then they went ahead and bought the absolute top. Then they bought the next top again. Then they started to sell all the way back to the bottom again. And they kept selling and selling and selling and selling. Finally, they sold everything here at the price level of $50,000 Bitcoin. And then they bought the top again. And now they are buying again. So this is giving me a signal that these guys are probably going to be wrong again. Okay, they could be right. The trend could change, but we have 8 years of history, and these guys are almost always wrong. So this is not a great signal. And when we take a look at the buyers, these are the only buyers of the market almost. So that's the scary part. So let me show you. So let me contrast that to the smartest money on the market. So the smartest money on the market is from 1 Bitcoin to 100 Bitcoin holders. And when we track this, yes, they sold all the way to the bottom in 2019, so not too smart. They accumulated the bottom here. Unfortunately, they accumulated this part here as well. Then they sold probably at non-profit or whatever. They didn't buy any Bitcoin here. But this is when they actually became smart. The amount of Bitcoin that they were holding here, they sold the fucking top here. So congratulations for them to actually selling the top here. Then they had the discipline to not buy into the FOMO here. And they waited and waited and waited. And here, when the price was $20,000, then they absolutely accumulated everything they could, all the way up to $30,000 Bitcoin. And then they started to sell once again. So they sold the top here once again. And here I was actually quite optimistic and bullish that now they started to accumulate. But as you can see, from the last 2 weeks, they actually started to sell once again. So this is a little bit, let's say, I don't know, worrying, but I would like them to see them just accumulate more. I don't want this blip to see this blip here. When we go one step further and we take a look at 1,000 to 10,000 Bitcoin holders, these guys were quite smart also. So they actually bought the 2018 bottom here and kept accumulating here. And they were also, or many of them were able to sell this top here. Then, unfortunately, many of them sold to the bottom here, but as you can see, they were way ahead anyway. So they were still okay. Many of them sold the bottom here, and they actually even accumulated all the way to the top, but these guys sold here once again. So these guys currently are not accumulating, not selling, they are just pretty much hodling the asset. Next up, when we go one last step further, we take a look at mega whales, and these have been quite smart also. 10,000 to 100,000 Bitcoin holders. These are your institutional investors, mega whales, whatever you want to call. They accumulated here, the bottom here. Then they sold almost everything here. Then they started accumulating again. Then they sold at this peak here, and then once again they accumulated, and then again these guys were able to time selling the top. So these guys were quite smart here once again. They had the discipline to basically not buy the second top. They didn't sell the bottom either. They actually accumulated during this time here. Unfortunately, many of them hesitated and sold the Bitcoin at $30,000 level, and they accumulated all the way up here. But even they are now selling. So pretty much the only buyer is the stupidest money that we can see on chain. So they could still change their habits, and they could become the smart money again. This 100 to 1,000 Bitcoin level. This could become the smart money again, but they are pretty much the only money that is holding the price where it is right now, and they don't have a great track record as we could see from before. So that kind of gives me the signal that perhaps these guys are wrong again. So for that reason, I do think that the bearish September could happen again, and we could see a drop down on the price. So if we go and take a look at the chart here, and I will now throw my most bearish, outlandish views that I can. This is the line. Let me actually go to the daily view so you can see it more clearly. This is the line here that I've been tracking, like this will be the absolute bottom price for Bitcoin. And right now it coincides with roughly $47,000 or $46,000 would be the bottom here. And it's basically right at the center of September. So this crossroad from this trend line and that trend line I just showed you, this is 16th of September. So for the next 2 weeks, we could be heading all the way this low as well. So in my opinion, you can trade this. It's a little bit iffy, to be honest. You can short Bitcoin, you can short altcoins if you like to, or you can just sit out this one, or you can hold your Bitcoin assets and keep buying as the price goes lower. But once the price goes here, this would be the golden time to actually get Bitcoin, in my opinion, hands down, because that will be supported by the ETF launch that we saw from $35,000 to $50,000 price level. So that has a lot of demand, and as you can see here, we saw a lot of buying when the price finally went into that zone. And right now, from this dip here, if there was a huge demand in this price zone, we should see an immediate recovery. But instead of seeing an immediate recovery, we see kind of just like sideways, weak price action. You can see it took many hours to go all the way to this high, and then immediately we went to the downside. Let's see if the price starts to climb up again, but it's more likely to me right now, when I just look at the charts, that this is basically the first wave to the downside of the current price move. Now, I could be completely wrong here. You can ridicule me, you can say whatever you want, but this is just me taking in the data and looking at the charts objectively. And like I said in my previous video, below this line, I will get bearish, because that's basically confirmation that the price structure could not hold a bullish trend to the upside. So now we are below the trend line. I'm expecting further downside, but if you want to play it safe, you can still be long, but just have your short stop losses like $57,600 or $57,700. And if price goes close here, you can make a long bet and just have your stop losses ready here, and you can make your long bet here. However, if the price actually goes to your stop loss, you can flip that into a short position and just ride the wave to the downside. That's one way you could play this out, or you could just sit this one completely out and try to find a dip during the September, whatever scary thing may or may not happen, and then get back into the market as a casual investor. So all in all, long term, we are still bullish, but as of now, the September might be a little bit shaky and scary. Then we have October, followed with US elections, and usually after elections, things start to look good once again. But this is my market analysis for today, for the end of August, and for September. So hopefully you got value out of this video. If you did, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and consider joining to my Discord channel, where we are currently talking about $30,000 market cap shitcoins on Tron network. So if you want to get into that discussion, you can see me there, and I will see you on the next video as well. Thanks for watching, and I will bye bye.